All right, friends, we're going to do a set of interviews with folks who have yet to really settle on their Enneagram type. Some folks are new, some folks have been wrestling for years, and we're going to be using the robust appendix of our new book, Around the Circle, to guide the discussions. And this is the first of our conversations with Rachel from Minnesota, from Michigan, you're up north.
I am from Minnesota, sort of officially in a little suburb. I can probably spit on the Mall of America from where I live, but I'll just call it Minneapolis.
Are you the sort of person that would want to spit on the Mall of America or not? That will be important to your typing discussion.
Yeah. Well, it's helpful to many people, and it brings goodness to our economy. But otherwise, I'm not a frequent flyer.
Perfect.
Yeah,
that's a great answer.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I've ever recorded a typing session, though I've done typing with a large number of people. But when I do typing, I generally focus on, I try to get us focused on 2 or 3, options. But we'll start out broad and kind of, cinch it down. For some of you who are listening, who are familiar with Enneagram, you'll get a sense of what I'm doing. But this recording is meant to do 2 things. One, it's meant to show how you might discuss typing with a friend, especially for those of you who are coaches, especially for those of you who are psychologists, therapists who want to do work with others. But second, obviously, TJ and I put a ton of time, and the great Jackie Contessa and Augie Cook put a ton of time into the mistyping chart that we have in the back of our new book. It's only in the print version, and we're going to utilize that some in our discussion. So that's where we're going. You ready to go, Rachel?
I sure am.
So thank you. Just broadly speaking, when you think about yourself, what are some of the things that come to your mind when describing yourself, your inner life, the things that you're about and want? What comes to your mind first?
I generally talk about myself I add a couple of labels on. So first, I'm a child of God. Secondly, I am a daughter. I am a daughter. Specifically, I'm a motherless daughter, which gives me a kind of a particular view in the world. I'm a big sister. I'm a spouse. I am truly, if I could just get paid to love people, I am really good at loving people. I'm intuitive. I'm kind. I'm available. I think those would be good first starting words.
That's a stellar list. And those are all very positive in nature as well.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to lead with my bad stuff yet.
With the negative way.
Yeah.
We should say this. So I'm 48. Rachel is 53. Sometimes when we come to Enneagram, when we're a little bit older, it is the case that a lot of times we have developed some tactics, some tools to kind of even out some of our excesses in our type, even if we're not aware of the Enneagram. And so that may also be worth noting. So friends, if you're 20, it can be much, much easier to type yourself than later on. So wanted to make special note of that. When you come to the world, and do you find yourself thinking more about the past, more about the future, or are you pretty much I'm in the present and just kind of responding to the things in front of me sort of person?
I would say that I am always thinking about the future. So I'll give you just a quick snippet. My spouse and I went through premarital counseling, and in the summary conversation, the person that was doing this with us said, I just want to show you, kind of reflect some wisdom. To my spouse, she said, you are a settler. You are a person who looks around and says, isn't this nice? And Rachel, you are a seeker. You are always looking out ahead and being like, yeah, this is nice, but what about over there? Or how could we make this better? Or what could be improved? Or yeah, you're a seeker.
And that resonates.
That resonates so deeply. It's like one of the core pieces of information that somebody has given me in my life that I felt like, wow, that really fits my whole life.
Well, Talk to me more about where you see yourself as a seeker, like how that works, especially inside of you.
So my parents didn't raise me with religion. I remember being a young girl, like I had a sort of makeshift altar set up in a closet, and I would sort of talk about or have a conversation with God that was about what's ahead for me, what's out in front of me. When I think about how I've been in relationship with other people, I often have thought about being a person who's like a restaurant consultant, where you come into a restaurant and the restaurant owner's like, I don't know what's not working. Like, what can I do that I can be a person who can come alongside of, and I can just see, I can see what's possible. Like, I'm very, maybe that's a really good way to put it, is that like I can, I'm a very like what's possible. I can walk into I once had a relationship where my partner's grandmother had an accident and fell, and she happened to be a hoarder. And like, I remember going into that house and being like, I can see how we can, how we can make a better life for her. I can see stuff that most people look at and think, oh, that's just garbage. I can see goodness in almost anything.
Right? Do you find that with your thinking about God and the divine, you talked about how you were a church worker, at least off mic. Do you find that that's a place of curiosity, or do you find that you get a little bit more rigid in your thinking?
It's definitely curiosity. The spaces that I've worked in, churches, have been like the director of membership, have been a place of welcoming and also like being kind of a cruise director. Like, here's what's possible for you here. Like, here are spaces that might fit for others, and also being able to see things that are underdeveloped and seeing paths for growth and expansion.
Yeah. Do you find that you really care about the feelings of the people in front of you, or
Yes.
is it the case that they're kind of obstacles at times?
No, I care very deeply for the experiences of people around me, and my guess is that would be like my empathy button. Like my empathy button, and being able to be concerned about that which other people are concerned about is pretty big.
Yeah. Do you find that you experience much anger in your life?
No.
Do you find that you experience much resentment, much resentment towards others in your life?
I definitely have uncovered lately a dissatisfaction, a frustration. I'm not sure that I really, resentment feels like a really hard stretch for me to make, but like
Sure.
frustration with people who are not good, what I would judge or perceive as good stewardship. So
Right.
like hoarding drives me crazy, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is like the lack of responsibility.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
what-
To one another,
Do you-
to each other as humans. Yeah.
Do you ever see that in yourself? Like, would others describe you as lacking responsibility, or do you come across as somebody who's quite responsible?
Boy, it sure does depend on the audience. I'll say my spouse believes that I'm very responsible, and she's probably the person that sees me the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you love most about your spouse?
Oh my gosh. She's a 9. So like, just from a stability and solid, like I grew up with not much of that. And so like, she is steady and solid and really, she's very smart. I mean, like really smart. And it comes from a whole family, and thinks I'm funny. and I think she's funny. And yeah, I don't know. We've been together for this July, end of July will be 21 years. And I just feel like
Yeah.
we still are learning all kinds of stuff about each other.
Congratulations. That's excellent.
Thanks. Thanks.
Do you find that you are, would you describe yourself as an anxious person at all?
No, no.
Do you ever fall into spaces of fear that are like quite reasonable?
I definitely have first impulses of worry, but if I can sort of take a breath, I kind of fall into that space of like it'll be fine. Like I feel like I've just sort of been in this journey where it's like it's all been fine to this point and nobody's, it's for the most part like there's not much that really rattles me.
Yeah. What would you describe as your best places to do real rest? Like places of where you really feel like, man, I'm just enjoying getting into this space because I really feel as though I'm revitalized here.
Anywhere near water. I'm a champion sleeper. I'm a 9 hour a night. Like I am a champion sleeper. My spouse being a 9, I can merge into her restful ways fairly. I can be talked into that fairly quickly.
Yeah. That's a good way to put that. When you go on vacation, what's like an ideal vacation look like for you?
And we haven't been there for a couple of years, but back before everybody learned that Tulum was the place to go, we were going there. And so the sort of the vibe of it is just water, ocean breezes, and books and naps and good food, and then more naps and books and good food. Like it really is just island life in that sort of tropical kind of way that's always where I want to go.
When you're solving problems, do you find that you are more of a kind of think about the problem, solve the problem sort of person? Are you a more of an optimistic when problems emerge sort of person?
I'm,
Or
sorry.
or is it the case that like you're I need to find out who's on my team kind of person when something really breaks?
When something really breaks, I'm optimistic until I'm not. Until like, so little known about me. I was a small business owner for many years, and we sort of got to this place where we sort of added up all the things that were, and we as my spouse and I added up like, here are all the things that are going like that need to be addressed, that need to be fixed. And the question to ourselves was, do we want to do that work? And like there were so many layers of things to do, and I was just like, I don't want to do it. And when we started the business, our sort of true north was, so we owned a pie shop I called it a pie and joy operation. And so in that pie and joy operation, we basically decided how many pies we could make, and people would pre-order them. And it was like pure joy handing these pies to people and hearing about their lives and their stories and their memories. And it's just, I could go on and on about pie and joy. And in the beginning, what we sort of said to ourselves was, we'll know that it's time to be done when this is no longer fun. And like, I know that everything takes hard work, and boy, we put all of our everything into it and then some. But when the joy is gone, when the sort of the operation of being able to see and have that exchange of goodness be a part of the fuel. Like when that stopped, it was like, okay, we can't go back. This is done. So
Yeah.
a little bit of both.
Do you find that you shift easily in those sorts of spaces, or is it very difficult for you to move on from something you've committed to for?
It's very easy for me to shift.
Boom.
I mean, I definitely experience like crazy grief. I've never sort of given myself to something as much as I did to that thing, but it was relatively simple for me to shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to like shift like if something isn't working, clicking, moving, like it's fairly easy for me to just, I don't have a naturally difficult time with change.
Right.
I enjoy change.
Well said. Is it the case? We talked about other people's feelings. Do you have difficulty getting into talking about your own negative experiences, or is that something that you can be comfortable in?
I'm really comfortable in sharing. Yeah.
Is that something that you've had to develop, or does that feel like that comes natural to you?
That comes naturally to me.
Okay. Wait, do you find in your relationship with your spouse that you're kind of the driver most of the time, that a lot of your energy is propelling?
Yes.
That would be a yes. It was
Yeah, that's a yes. Oh.
What are some of the things that your spouse being the 9 and you like change? I imagine that she doesn't like change as much. What are the things that you are most insistent about changing, that are most important to you?
Our health.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, physical, that whole piece. I'm almost always the driver of the driver and like puller upper for that.
Mm-hmm.
We have moved more times than I think she would ever care to talk about, and her family is also very set and stable, and so, but I'm sort of always the one who's like, but we could have it like this, and we could, yeah. So health, home, I have acquiesced my need to like rearrange the furniture, but that has always been a sort of a strong, very tangible thing for me. Those are the places that come to mind right off the top of my head.
It's perfect. What's the primary reason you want to rearrange furniture?
I just could. It could be better. It could just be. It just could be.
I mean, that in and of itself is a good reason.
Yeah.
It's like, could be better.
Yeah.
With the work that you do in church world, do you find that you really want to be acknowledged by the people that you work with for the work that you do?
There's like acknowledgement, and then there's praise, and then there's like, I think I do want to be acknowledged. Praise and that kind of thing makes me really uncomfortable. But I do want to know that I'm seen, and I want to know that I'm like making a contribution. I prefer to have someone give me critical feedback in real time, or sort of in appropriate ways that are, not blowing up in front of me. But if I do something wrong, like I want you to point it out, and I'd like you to tell me.
Why do you want to know if you do something wrong?
So I can fix it. I can make it better, so that I can make adjustments, so that I can so that I can play my part on the team to do a better job.
I'm trying to think if I've missed anything here. I should probably, well, I have. Let me, you sound as though you're a fairly active person. That is, it seems like you want to do some stuff.
Yeah.
Would you describe yourself as getting a lot of satisfaction from what you accomplish?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is that primary for you?
That's a good question. Oh, I'm trying to think of something that would be, I'm like, isn't that what people want to do?
Yeah, right.
Right.
I think that, but apparently they don't.
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
For example, the
yeah.
9 in your life, I
Right. Well, I
imagine.
mean, her aside, right? But like,
See, case in point, right?
right. Right. Yeah. I think, well, here's the thing is that I think she does perceive that she's getting, like
Yes.
she does
Yeah, yeah.
often make sure that I know that she was not just being on the internet or frittering or,
Yeah.
right. So, but I love a list and I love to cross things off. I mean, and for her, a list is just like putting it down in a tangible ways so that she can let go of what's in her brain to like let it go. So she doesn't have to hang on to it anymore. Whereas she is now very aware that if she hands me a list, that it's almost compulsive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is, I'm sorry, it's compulsive on her part?
No, it's compulsive on my part to get the list done. She doesn't understand how I could not go to all the stores and do all the things in order
Yeah.
to like have the sense of completion. So like,
Yeah.
and one of the ways that I think about that as far as like a working life goes is I making pie was a really happy making thing for me. It's like make the dough, make the goo, put it together, create or bake the pie, and then like hand it to someone is just like, that's a process. And that's something that I can feel like I agreed to do it. I did all the things to do it. And then I like did it.
Yeah.
Next. So
Yeah. Those are great answers. Last couple answers.
Yeah.
When you get really stressed out, do you find that you prefer to take a big step back away from acting in the world? Or when you get stressed out, do you feel like you get up and energized and aggressive? Or something else?
So sometimes when I'm stressed, my sympathetic nervous system sends me into freeze, right? It's just like I kind of lock up. But if we're like, so, and I'm thinking about it in the context of going to school right now, where it's like, if I get stressed out, like sometimes I bump up against that, like it's just really like I get really frustrated and I get really, that can send me on a, sort of a spiral down and feeling really bad about myself and whatever. And also, I have all of my life been kind of a last minute gal. I should say about like, I complete it, I get it done. I don't always, my stress level is connected to like, my stress is about like, if there's a time, like I experience stress as time crunch. So
Yeah.
like, and that's maybe I didn't manage my time well enough or whatever, but I generally have in my whole life not started the assignment until probably later than I should have. I probably don't start it as early as I should.
That's well said and quite common for some of the types. and a worthy typing detail.
Yeah.
One thing that's got me on all of this is water, books, naps, and good food for your vacations.
Yeah.
Tell me why these things are most restful for you.
They are connected to, like, water is about flow. Like water is, there is a certain sort of there's like buoyancy and non-resistance. It's flow. It's water is flow. It's nature. It's ruled by the rising and setting of the sun. Like there's there's some real natural aspects to it that are like
Mm-hmm.
kind of mysterious and beyond. I know that lots of people understand how all of it works. I am not one of those people. To me, it's still very much is a kind of a mystery how tides work and all of that.
Sure.
Books is my, this is, wow, this is really honest. Books is my method to fall asleep.
Sure.
It's like I can read, I don't know, 6 pages and then I'm just like, it's like I'm just soothed. It's a very soothing thing for me. Naps is like, I just like these little bites of time where it like, it's like little resets, little opportunities to sort of reset and start over. Yeah.
All that's perfect. I would love to jump into our material and just
Yeah.
and see where it connects with you.
Yeah.
When we started this conversation,
Yeah.
you kind of had a couple of numbers in mind. You want to talk about what
Sure.
numbers hit you
Yeah.
and why?
Yeah. So I have been typed as a 2, not only from like I just feel like it started I don't know, maybe like 8 years ago is when I started sort of being aware of Enneagram. And so like people were just like, yeah, you're a 2. I mean, like you're just a 2. Like there's just no denying. And I don't know if that was, I did test that way, like my Myers-Briggs type was an ENFP. So I don't know all the stuff, but like there are some things that have sort of been true for me. I've always worked, I genuinely, truly, really love people. And I really find humans and like people really beautiful expressions of life, of the divine. So people have often seen me as someone who, like, one of the ways that I love people is to do acts of service. Could be, there's lots of different reasons for why that might be true.
Sure.
Like the episode that just aired with Lindsay, she was like, I sort of always was one of the things that I resonated with what she said was like, when Meal Train came along, it was like, oh, do I have to make them? Like Meal Train is just like, oh, please don't make me do it. But like when I'm with you, when I'm like in space with you, I am 100% here. Even getting ready for this conversation was like, okay, find the room with all the soft surfaces and be in the. I'm really concerned about showing up well.
Mm-hmm.
And in my own backing out, it's like, I'm pretty sure I'm in the heart triad. Like my heart does rule. Sorry, my heart does rule my life.
Talk about that for a second.
I think it's that intersection of like possibility and like in all of the other relationships prior to the one that I am in, and there were many, I would say unequivocally, easily 90% of those relationships, partnered, like intimate relationships, we were either equally matched in our sort of dysfunction or I was trying to save them or something along those lines.
Sure.
And maybe it's, I've been in this relationship for, 20 some years. And so like over time, I've been able to develop boundaries and sort of see things from other points of view. But I'm a with person. Like I have very, very rarely in my life been single. My spouse, on the other hand, was, single for 7 years prior to being with me.
Okay.
I really love love. Like, I really love humans. I really love relationships. I've loved being in the restaurant business. Like, that level of being able to see the whole, like being able to see it all and like be a little bit of a conductor has worked really well for me and is a space that I feel energized by.
You, in terms of a conductor, you're the one conducting the relationships.
I'm the one conducting the flow. I can help guide and teach and equip, and I'm really good at seeing now from a much more boundaried place and like asking consent, see what somebody might need so that they can excel and be the person that they need to be.
And that's the mark of helping folks move forward in that front has come up a couple times. In that I assume that in terms of your own identity, self-understanding, and the thing that really gets you is that is that your sweet spot?
Yeah, that is my sweet spot.
Think twos was one number. Did you have another number?
Yeah, I just have really, and there's no wanting in any of this, but there is a lot of fourness that really, and I don't know whether that's like the line, but just even listening to fours on your podcast and on other podcasts and just sort of like hearing and being with and sort of experiencing other like there's some times where a four will say something and like the resonance in my body just feels like I am like, it's just, that's the note that rings for me. I can't give you a specific example in this very hot moment, but
no, that works.
Yeah.
All right, you ready to do this, Rachel?
Oh, I'm so ready.
If I was trying to say like where would I actually place you, I would have initially started with ones and sevens. As it stands, in just hearing that sort of reflection, I think the most interesting conversation would be to start with ones and twos. The amount of one language that you have seemed dominant to me in terms of both the spatial side of your coming to the world. The improvement elements are all over your language, from moving furniture to your business to your relationships. The idea that you have last minute goals, experiences of what you're going to do, that is very one-ish. However, one of the first things you said was that you're always thinking about the future, and those feel like they're intention, but for ones they're not. The thing about twos is twos are never thinking about the future, and that would be one of those places that I would probably want to parse and kind of sink into that. Relationships between twos and nines, ones and nines, and sevens and nines are all very common. So that's where I think I would start. Relationships with fours and nines can be, but because you're such an energetic force in the relationship, fours aren't necessarily an energetic force. It would probably be like fours and nines would probably kind of sit together, and it's kind of going to depend on the couple, but yeah. It felt as though there was a lot of the energy is coming from you. It's also the case that fours can be seekers, but that was another bit, because that was so important to you and up front, the idea of seeker was one, again, that was moving me towards that 1-7 space. And so before we jump in, do you hear anything there as I'm talking?
Yeah, I'm reminded of the phrase, "Thou dost protest too much," and feeling like I can definitely hear the sort of, I now can hear in my understanding of each of the numbers, one of the things that has been is for me to like think about like a figurehead or a particular person. So I have a person in my life who has been like my one figurehead, and only now can I sort of hear that in a generous spirit, meaning like
Sure.
that sort of not so. Anyway, there's that, and
Yeah.
then yeah, it really was the conversation with Lindsay where I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I do have a 7 that's pretty prominent in my life. And one of the things that is true that also resonated with that other conversation was about like, I'm not dumb. Like, I mean, like, I do have access. I do have access there. And
To your thinking.
to my thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, right, this is not that it's a very, that's a place where it's like, oof, that's very blanket. But I do feel like, they talk about twos, it's the one space where you have to leapfrog to get to a thinking space. And
Right.
that seems odd.
Yeah, as we were going through, I asked a couple questions about repressed centers, and it sounds like you strike me, if you're self-aware, and these are all honest, which I don't have any reason to think otherwise. It seems like you've done a lot of work on your repressed center, because none of the buzzwords were coming up with either repressed thinking, repressed doing, or repressed feeling, and so at some level you've navigated those well. Now, I also wouldn't naturally think of myself as a repressed thinker. I have a graduate degree in philosophy. I've taught at the university for a dozen years. My repressed thinking comes out in how much I verbally process. My repressed thinking comes out in how much I have to write down for the sake of myself. So the fact that you have lists also was something that kind of jumped up a little bit for me there. And especially since they're action-oriented lists, that kind of has a nice little, if that's a sweet spot, that might unveil. But I love your self-analysis. At some point, it might be worth talking about anger again. I only brought it up once, but we pivoted to frustration, and that would be a buzzword for 1s, 7s, and 4s. And those are some things to start with. So, all right. So in the fantastic new book, Around the Circle, Rachel will be one of the first online to see that we have this fantastic typing guide of 30 different comparisons. And I would love to walk through 1s and 2s. And I think you'll be a prototypical in some ways of, as you were saying with Lindsay, a lot of times in America, in certain parts of our culture, 2ness is thrust on others, or at least the qualities of 2ness are thrust on others, specifically females, in terms of the role that they ought to play in their family, in church life, or, in society at large. And so there can be, I've internalized these expectations and made them my identity, when really my motive is somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's really important to name. And I'm glad that you caught that. Well, are you ready to do this?
I'm ready.
So there's 30 pairings that we have for 1s and 2s. Of all things, one that I am, I really want to rewrite the first 2 lists, which are the 1s and 2s versus 1s and 3s, because I was just getting my legs when I was doing it, and as they get better as we go. But my self-criticism is going to come out as we do this.
That's awesome.
So I really want to talk more about feelings and body at some point. So if it doesn't come up here, that was something that I wanted to engage. But 1s have a need to feel like they're doing good, and 2s have a need to feel like they're needed. Do you resonate with either of those more?
I definitely resonate with doing good. Yeah. Yeah.
So let me actually back up for 2 spaces. So my mistype, when I got into this, was actually 5. And so in preparation for our conversation, I went through the 1s versus 5, which I've never done before in terms of just typing myself. And the first 7 pairings, I was like, well, I could go either way here.
Yeah.
And so these aren't whiz bang, but it's just worth naming in that way. Do you find that you cling to your standards, your principles when making decisions, or do you cling to your relationships, your connections when making decisions? More.
I think I cling to my relationships.
Perfect. Do you feel, and of course, I'm doing ones first and twos second, if I
Yep.
forget to say that, but ones often feel pressure to fix everything. Twos often feel pressure to meet everybody else's needs. Does one of those pressures hit you more?
Boy, they feel like a 1-2 punch.
Yep.
And I don't know how to pick one.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
One of the things I suppose that also ought to be said, because ones share a wing with two and two shares a wing with one, a lot of times we balance on these wings. This can also be true, dear listener, of your stress and security arrows. So oftentimes our mistype is going to be in these spaces. So that's a perfect answer. Ones often push for structure. Twos often push for more closeness.
I would definitely choose closeness there.
Ones often feel defective without results. Twos often feel invisible without affirmation.
That's definitely a one.
Bing.
Yeah.
That's what I heard in our conversation also.
100%.
Ones often avoid mistakes to preserve their integrity. Twos often avoid rejection to preserve closeness.
Ooh, one. Weird.
Ooh. One.
This is so
Tell me why that's weird.
funny to hear. Wow. I just hadn't. Yep. I hadn't heard that before. So
I'll probably cut this. You are the ideal first guest to do this. I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled that you didn't have one on your list.
No.
So perfect.
Oh.
Ones often fear being morally flawed. Twos often fear being unloved.
Boy, I gotta go with unloved.
Perfect. Ones often hold back playfulness to stay on task. Twos will often hold back personal limits to ensure that they're useful.
That is really tricky. I think I gotta go with one there.
The amount of times that you brought up boundaries, I was real curious on that because that can go both ways. And that would be one of those sticky spots.
Well, so that is, I feel like I have lived a life of very externally, people have said that I don't have great boundaries. And
Okay.
I have been just recently trying to unpack some of that and feeling like, how do I do often like take risks and bet the farm.
Yeah.
So I maybe don't necessarily always understand what like boundary, like what is good, proper boundaried behavior. I'm not sure I'm always clear on that.
I think that just coming to the question that way, I'm doing this for the sake of others and the perception they have of me. And then there's doing things because you see some sort of defect that you want to overcome. Two very different reasons for improvement.
Yeah. I think I am a person who will choose or who will advocate for improvement. Like I worked for someone in a restaurant and I felt like my job as second in command was to hold the vision and like always have people sort of throwing the spaghetti up against the vision. And so as much as I tried to bring people along towards that vision, and like I have not a whole lot of trouble with conflict. I have not a whole lot of trouble with, so I really, when I'm really feeling confident and in myself, I'm feeling like you tell me what you want and I will execute that. And I will execute it in a way that's like just exactly what you would like, kind of what you want to see.
And your execution isn't necessarily about ensuring that people will do things for you in the future.
No. Yeah.
That's an important distinction.
Yeah.
It's also the case holding vision. Vision can be a way, so a primary for one's can be agency and control. And one of the things that principles and vision do is they place it out there as something fairly robust and powerful. And of course, if you're on board, that's the vision, and there's the control, as it were, or at least the stability sought. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's an interesting way that you're putting that. And trouble with conflict is really worth naming there, because I'm not sure if twos are. I would have to ask some twos on that one. That would be worth naming. That's perfect though. All right, 11th. Ones often suppress their impulses. Twos often suppress their personal needs.
Personal needs.
Ones often swallow anger to keep control. Twos often swallow frustration to preserve intimacy.
They both really fit for me.
Resonant. Perfect. Ones often overextend to prevent inner judgment. Twos often overextend to prevent emotional drift.
You know, this is one of those places that I just wish that my spouse was on the phone call.
Well, it'll be something to talk about.
Right,
You can
exactly.
listen through this with you.
Yeah, I got to go with ones on that.
Perfect. We didn't talk about inner criticism. It's going to materialize differently for ones and twos, but I think the question works well in terms of saying something to the extent of twos' anger itself isn't as prominent as... I gotta ask some twos. Never mind. I gotta ask some twos how their own self-critique works. Anyway, ones often correct what's wrong. Twos often comfort what's hurt.
Yeah, that's a 2.
Oh, really? This felt, when you were talking about meal trains, this feels like the meal train question of...
Oh, yeah. I hurt or injured or like that part of me is like the orphaned 3-legged whatever is just like, give it to me. Like I want, like that sort of desire to come alongside of is very strong in me, to like comfort the afflicted.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And is that because you expect to get something back from the afflicted, or is it because when you come alongside them, you're going to make the world a better place?
That's making the world a better place.
Yeah. And you'll notice just the language of motive there is really important. Like, why is it that I'm coming alongside another? And so that making the world, by the way, making the world a better place would be the one answer, and getting favors in return is the 2 answer.
Yeah.
Ones often serve out of duty. Twos often serve out a sense of longing.
That's that duty.
Ones often define self by their ethical intentions, and twos often define themselves through positive responses.
Oh gosh, that's a 1.
Ones try to fix the structure of the room. Twos often try to fix the mood of the room.
That's kind of fun to think about. I actually enjoy both of those things.
I do too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I enjoy
again,
both. Yeah.
Lesson, dear listener, about how mistyping charts often work. And a lot of times, like if we had more time, if I was actually a therapist or something like that, we would actually spend a lot more time based on your answers. Well, let's walk through that for a little bit and see how that plays. But that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Ones often act to avoid regret. Twos often serve to avoid rejection.
Oh, regret.
Boom.
Regret.
That's a big one for me.
Oh.
And on this, I don't want to be rejected, but when I feel regret, it is stabbing.
Oh, it is dark. Yeah. It is like I don't know how to fix that. Yeah. And I don't know how to, like, that shame will fall upon me. And
yeah. The role of shame in the life of ones versus the life of twos is really worth naming, because oftentimes it comes up in more of a stress-filled situation, at least for me, especially in the past. I get into like I should have done,
Mm-hmm.
and that's more of a I need to repair this. Anyway,
Yeah.
ones often believe their role is to improve. Twos often believe their role is to care. Don't you care through improvement? Don't you improve through care?
Exactly. Yeah, but I don't know that you can, that's a fine hair to pick.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Perfect. Ones often judge when others don't try hard enough. Twos often grieve when others don't respond.
Oh, I definitely grieve when people don't respond.
Ooh, talk about that for a second.
I had, yeah, wow. I read the one response to me one more time, just so I can hear the.
Judge when others don't try. Grieve when others don't respond.
Yeah. So grieve when people don't respond is about, okay, so what I hear in these two things is like self to other, like to other relationship. And the grieving when somebody doesn't respond is like about like how much better your life could be if you would just respond. Like you could, like, I don't care if it's a yes or a
Oh,
no or
it's responding
like,
to what you're encouraging.
yeah, right. So it's
I
like,
think the
yeah.
phrasing, I suppose the phrasing was meant to be more like when somebody doesn't return your phone call or your text, you grieve when there's
Oh,
not,
no, I don't, no, I think how I heard it is like,
yeah,
I put this opportunity in front of
yes,
you.
yeah,
And if you are making a choice not to
yeah.
respond, like, yeah, you're lost,
My,
man. Like,
that might be a Rorschach test right there. So one thing that I started doing with a lot of the lists later, but I don't think I did here, was to really emphasize the stress and security moves. So I would love to add that just real quick.
yeah.
When you are secure, when things are going real well, when you have, all your check marks are done, do you find that you move towards, like, does your brain open up and you start seeing all sorts of new possibilities, new things you could be doing? Or is it the case that you're allowed to be more introspective and really start to care about yourself and see your own identity?
Ooh, I feel like I can see more possibility. I can,
Boom.
like, that to me just feels like I, so I don't often feel like a natural, healthy move for me is to like see how it affects me.
Yeah.
Like I am often thinking about like ooh, that could open this door and that could open that door and that could
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Perfect. The stress and security moves are one of the best places to do typing. So, also on the oneness side, I think we said this off mic. You had some hesitancy about purchasing the book from Jeff Bezos, rightly so. But I think a two would be much more warm towards, we just started a relationship, and so the moral, it's not a quibble, but it's certainly worth noting. But that
Yeah.
that exposes motive and type as well.
Well, so just so you know, I was
Yeah.
like, well, I know my sweetie has some stuff in the Amazon cart. So, like, I could just,
Throw it
kind
in
of let, if I know that this is the only way that I can access it and I can't get it another way,
Yeah.
okay,
There you go.
all right. I'm
It's good.
happy to like throw you $40 on Venmo if you want to like rip me a copy,
figure out
but like, right? But it's just like, but also because I'm in this relationship and because I'm really
Yeah.
interested in the work,
Yeah.
okay, I can make an exception.
That's good. All of these expose motive. All
Yeah.
right, last 10. We did 20. Last 10. Ones strive to meet internal standards. Twos often strive to meet relational expectations.
Oh, wow. I think I would go with relational expectations there.
Perfect. Ones often feel guilt when resting before it's done. Twos often feel guilt when prioritizing themselves.
That's definitely a 2.
Ones often discipline feelings to stay effective. Twos often suppress feelings to remain useful.
I definitely don't suppress my feelings, ever. I just don't. I'm a person who really, which is an interesting sort of thing to think about, is like,
Yeah.
I'm really living in a world where, like, so heart type, also feeling, like that's like that sort of feeling piece, that empathy, that sensing energy, like that doesn't turn off with me.
Yeah. That's perfect. Some ones will talk about suppressing their feelings. That's something I also am very emotional and don't generally feel bad about expressing how I feel about things. I resonate with the disciplining my feelings element. But
Disciplining. I'm sorry. It's like short attention span theater. Like I sort of hear the one and I'm like, okay, I got it. And then I hear the two and I'm like, God dang it.
Where am I at? Ones are going to carry resentment as a moral burden. Twos are going to carry grief with a smile. That's a strange.
Like I'm going to carry grief with a smile is like, that is very true for me. Yeah.
Boom. Ones struggle to be flexible in thought. Twos struggle to say no out loud.
Yes.
Right.
2.
We talked about boundaries. And you come across as a curious person.
Yeah.
Ones often invoke high standards. Twos invoke interpersonal standards.
I would say I invoke inner standards.
Interpersonal standards?
Yeah.
Are your standards easily manipulated by other people's opinions? I suppose that's really the question there.
They are. I do carry myself with a certain amount of openness so that I don't close myself off to what otherwise might be possible. Meaning, like, I don't feel like I'm a shapeshifter. I don't feel like my standards are squishy. I am always interested in, like, learning from, if it's in relationship, like I like to hold possibility that I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I like to be, I'm not wrong a lot, but I like to learn other people's way of understanding a particular topic or situation.
Yeah.
Like, I really wish that I could speak to somebody who could be in, like, positive intellectual dialogue about sort of what's happening in the state of the world right now.
Perfect. There's nothing to put my finger on here aside from the fact that I don't know that twos bring up those 3 things in order, but ones do. And like just the fact that you're thinking about, well, I'm generally right about these sorts of things, said no to, really, as it were. I don't know that that's altogether true. I'm saying this as I'm going, but it just felt like those are the sorts of priorities that would come up with ones. I likewise am struggling to find, like, who is the person I can listen to who's got a better perspective on everything burning down. But that might just be all of us.
Right.
Last 4.
Yeah.
Ones often expect others to step up. Twos often expect others to reciprocate their care.
Ooh, step up.
Ones often hope goodness will create wholeness. Twos often hope sacrifice will secure love and attention.
Oh, wholeness.
Ones often hide sadness beneath purpose. Twos can hide sadness beneath their service. Yeah, I think that reason.
Ooh, yeah. Apologies. Read one more time.
Hide sadness beneath purpose.
Yeah, that's it.
Does that click for you? Ones often want to be admired for their standards. Twos often want to be cherished for their sacrifices.
Ooh. Yeah, I am definitely service. Ones, yeah.
So when doing typing, so that's the list, and there's a handful of other obvious charts and helps in the book for next steps, but mostly just reading descriptions of that type with yourself in mind. One of the most valuable things that you said in this was, as we were going through the Mistyping chart, was that you wanted to listen to this with your partner. And as I was thinking, I was like, that would be incredibly helpful, because they can kind of point out, no, this is who you are, and they will know you better than I do,
And they can often, they hear differently than I do, right?
Yeah.
So like a nuanced question or like things being coupled together, they can help me sometimes, mirror stuff in a way that, as much as we think we know ourselves, like sometimes the person that we spend the most time with, the one who we may call our beloved, is like, they'd love us so much to be honest with our things that we try to keep hidden from ourselves.
Yeah.
And I know that I cannot hide from my spouse. There's no, because they have memory and recall so much better than I do for, again, I just, I'm like eternally optimistic about myself.
Yeah. There you go. There may be also, that's a good description of not really having a strong anchor in the past. Mm-hmm. Nines do have a very strong anchor in the past in terms of memory, being able to bring things forward.
Oh yeah, they do.
The two things before we close. Yeah. Well, three things actually. First, thank you so much. This could not have gone better. I'm so happy about this. And part of it is that we're not necessarily landing on a number.
No.
And that is like a great example for everyone, that you can come to the topic and just take time considering how you see the world and the language that's there. The only other thing that really struck me is just how much you spoke about spaces and really finding purpose in your accomplishments. Spaces is a buzzword for me for ones. Twos can feel a lot of purpose in their identity based on what they do, but that's really prominent with ones, where like the twos are seeking to achieve the relationship as opposed to achieve the task. And that, as we were talking, those were the two things that were really a distinguishing point for me. So anyway, worth thinking on those things. So any final thoughts from you, Rachel, before we
I just am I also am like so grateful, because one, just has not at all been on my radar screen. I know someone who sort of identified with a one, who thought that like really kind of lived in that space, and then they sort of discovered that they were not. And so like this whole kind of concept of mistyping is just such good reminder and inquiry to not only remember that we are the whole circle, but like to do the work to get underneath some of this stuff. I'm real excited about, not only your book launch and, but this particular topic is really exciting. And I'm really glad that I got to have this conversation with you.
Stellar. Well, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for your time and the service that it does for everybody else. So
yeah, thank you.
So much love to you, and much love to your family and to your spouse. This is Jeff. Thank you for listening to this interview. If you're interested in finding the mistyping guide that we used, it is in our new book, Around the Circle. This is exclusively on Amazon.com, and the link is in the show notes. If you or someone you love has struggled for a while to find your type and you're interested in speaking with us, you can connect with us on Instagram, or if you are a member, you can message us at aroundthecircle.org. We are cheering for you. May all good things be yours.